Welcome to Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 318, Clean Browsing. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today brought to you by Instant House Call, remote support that is easy for you and your customers to use. This is a must-have tool with features like on-demand for your break-fix customers and unattended for managed services. You can do automatic repairs with the auto repair built-in software, and it will save you time and money when you're supporting your customers. Check it out for a free trial at instanthousecall.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS. And also buy FreshBooks, the simple pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/podnuts. Enter podnuts in the How Did You Hear About Us section. All right, before I introduce the co-hosts, we have a special announcement to make. And our good friend of the network, Eric Ardini, lost his battle with cancer Friday, April 5th, 2019, so just a couple days ago. Following a recent diagnosis, it was like 6 weeks ago that he got diagnosed, and we're just sad to hear that. He is survived by his wife, Kathy, his son, Philip, and his daughter, Nicole. One of the things I want to do is he has a GoFundMe page, and we're going to have a link for that in the show notes. And I encourage everybody to go over there and, hey, even if it's just $1, just throw some money into the GoFundMe page, kind of help the family with expenses during this hard time. I want to go back into something that, as I was looking at the history of Eric on the Podnuts Network, I went back and looked at some of his episodes. And he debuted on Podnuts Daily number 312 in January of 2011. So he had been around a long, long time. He actually hosted Podnuts Daily from episode 338 to 346 in the beginning of 2012, giving Steve Cherubino a 3-month hiatus or a couple-month hiatus there. So that was kind of cool. He was helping out. And then he joined Android App Addicts on episode number 316, February 6th, 2015. And one of the things, if you don't know Eric, I've met him once in person, but when I started this podcast or started this podcast back up in 2014, he was one of the first people that actually emailed me and said, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Appreciate what you're doing." And that's just the type of person that Eric was. He was a person that he was always there to help you. He would give the shirt off his back. That's just the type of guy he was. And you could just tell, just having a conversation with him, he was always an encourager of people. We're also going to include there's a little snippet from his hometown where he was city clerk at, and they had some nice things to say about him, and we'll put that link in the show notes too. So we're very saddened to hear this. And John, you want to say anything?
No, I've got nothing to add. Just, makes you count your blessings. God bless him and his family. Rest in peace, Eric. Keep up the good fight.
Yep. And yeah, definitely have his family in our prayers right now during this hard time, because to be honest with you, I can't even imagine what that would be like. All right, let me introduce the co-host for this particular show. We have John Dubinsky, who you just heard from the Maven Group. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jeff. Hang on a second here. I'm adjusting our crypto to make sure that our IoT, AR, VR, and big data are all functioning. And I want to make sure the feeds of our SEO and analytics and our meme structure and social media plans are all forget it. We'll just let the AI handle it.
That's good. Yeah, that's awesome. You know how I love my acronyms. Yeah, not really. Also joining us.
Good to be here, Jeff.
I'm glad to have you, man, as usual. Also, we have Daniel Sid from CleanBrowsing. Daniel, how you doing?
I'm awesome.
Awesome to have you here.
Thank
All right,
you.
we're going to start off with our normal tips and stories section for this show. And John, I'm going to throw it over to you because I know, you're probably as long-winded as usual, and we're going to get a boatload of information from you.
I'm going to have a really short tip section this week, Jeff. I'm going to try to keep it, and I'm going to obviously throw this one out to Eric, and hopefully it'll be worth, even mentioning his name. So in your honor, Eric, we're starting out with 3 easy MSP cybersecurity mistakes. So MSP mistakes, our friends over at Viper Security have a nice little entry in their blog. Very quick read, but kind of obvious, but maybe not. Make sure you visit that and take a peek. My little intro with that AI joke and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. There's a little article that I found on Forbes. It says, just say AI, blockchain, crypto, IoT, AR, VR, big data, analytics, or cybersecurity to get hired. the funny thing about that is, when I'm reading through my news feed and all that during the week, I stumbled upon this article. Then I went back to the technology feed on Google News, and I scrolled all the way through, and I counted of the 57 headlines under the technology section, 53 of them contained either the abbreviation or the word AI. So take that as you will. I mean, obviously that's a hot marketing tip, but just keep that in mind when you're rolling through all the marketing stuff that you're looking at, whether it's for antivirus, your RMM, and all that. Everybody seems to be poking that beast. 'Tis the season for conferences. We've got a couple coming up in Chicago. Obviously, we've got TechCon coming up in September. So here's a little life hack. A little link to 25 hotel hacks to make your next vacation a 5-star experience. Some of them are pretty good, I thought. Some of them I'm not sure I would pull off, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. A fortuitous article based on our guest here today. Over on Medium, there's an article comparing DNS security filters. I thought it was a great little real-world article comparing some that you've heard of and not. I guess the point is guys, when you're setting up your stuff, just don't punch in the Google DNS. There are some free options. There are some low-cost options, which are much better, especially than the ones you've heard of. And last but not least, just a quick little life hack. Did you guys know if you find a lost wallet, you can just toss it in a mailbox and the U.S. mail will send it back to that owner for free?
I did
Little
not
life
know that.
hack tip. But there you go. And I'll have an article link to that as well.
That's awesome. Very cool. Good as usual, John. Daniel, how about you? Do you have a life hack story or something for us that we could learn from?
Yeah, I have a tip, but it's more like a question. And that's something for us to think about. It's that if someone inside your network right now visit a malicious domain or a link, would you know? Or even better, like if not only they visit, but if they fuse the phishing form, with their username and password, do you have any tools or do you have any visibility to know that he was able to visit that page? So it's just something to think about. It's something that I talk all the time because I work on the security at domain. So we see hacking all the time and sites being a compromise. So it's just something to think about. Do you have the visibility you need to know what's happening on your network?
That is very good. And yeah, I think that's something we're always striving for, is to have some sort of visibility on the network so that we know when our customers are having problems. Normally, a lot of us, even with good RMM tools and the tools we have out there, a lot of times we'll have a customer that'll say, hey, something's weird going on, or I'm sending out emails to a bunch of people and they're weird. And it's like, so you get a lot of the vague information, and then you've got to go and try to figure out exactly what happened. So, yeah, they're definitely something to think about, to have the right tools in place so that you know exactly where people are going and what they're doing, or at least so you can block some of those things and try to mitigate the problem as best as possible. All right, so I got a couple tips. Number one, I got a problem today with a Comcast email. Yes, not for myself. It was for a customer. And they called me up and said, hey, my email's been hacked. And that's a normal thing we hear. It's been hacked, whatever. But basically, somehow, some way, the email account being Comcast's email account, which obviously, if you're using Comcast, Yahoo, AOL, God forbid, or any of these other ones, their security is probably way, way, way down in the pits. Just saying. But some people are so ingrained into that particular email that they don't want to change, even though I will help them create a Gmail account or some other better account than any of the ones I mentioned above. And in this particular situation, this person was I said, hey, change your password, and I'll do a scan on the system and I'll look at your settings and all that kind of stuff on your email to make sure everything's all right. So she was able to basically change her password, and then when she went to hook back into her iPhone and Outlook on her desktop, it wouldn't take it. Well, Comcast has this new thing that I just discovered this morning, and they have dual authentication, which I turned on immediately. Not that I use the account, but I do. I mean, I use the main account, but not that I use it for email. So I'm thinking this is probably having a problem. And so end up calling customer support. Actually, she did, and I was on the phone there, and they were basically had walked her through the steps of, yeah, you're gonna have to delete your account and re-add the accounts to each of your devices, whether it be your phone, Outlook, whatever it is. Well, that didn't fix the problem either. What ended up happening was she had to actually make another password again and delete the accounts from each of these devices. And I'm like, is this like, are we in the early 2000s or is this 2019? Because I'm a little confused. Normally, when you change a password, you should be able to change it in whatever thing you're using to check that email account, no matter what it is. So, anyways, if you ever run into a problem like that, that would have been my like fourth or fifth step that I would have taken. But I don't really like to do that, even though it's on IMAP and everything's on the web and it's fine. I just don't like to go in there. Hey, let's delete account and add another account because it adds time and effort to what you're doing. So I try to leave that as a last resort. But just something to think about when you're going through that stuff. That maybe even whoever was helping on the Comcast side didn't really know what they were doing. I don't know.
Really?
Anyway, well, normal problems. The other quick one, real quick, and this is just kind of it. Uh, Eric Eric's passing just got me thinking today. And one of the things we talk about in this particular show is we talk about going out there and doing something for yourself, starting your own business, adding to your business, growing your business, all these different places that people start. And what I want to tell people is don't have any regrets. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you will hear advice from many, many different people out there, including us here. We'll give advice on how you should do something and maybe the best way that we think you should do it. But here's the thing. A lot of times we're just going by our own experiences. And so when we tell you that, those are the experiences we've had. And let me give you a prime example. So I've heard various people on different podcasts in different sized businesses where they'll go, hey, I started in the residential managed services and it was just a complete and utter waste of time. So I went total B2B, business to business, and that's where I found my, you know, that's where I found the money basically. It's kind of how they said it. Not really my niche, which is what they found was their particular niche. And then you've got another person who said, I went in and I grabbed a hold of this managed service thing and I went and did managed service for residential clients only, and they're making a killing at it. So there's many different ways to do this business. And what I would tell each and every one of you out there is when you're thinking about doing something, if it makes sense to you and it's not going to put you in debt or in the hole or anything like that, and you can do it, go ahead and give it a try. See what it's going to do for you. Maybe you've come up with a way that's going to work in your area, in your business, the way that you like to do business. And that's okay. And then maybe you can come on this show and teach us something about, hey, did you ever think about doing it this way? And that's why the community is so important because we're not here to tell you exactly what to do. We're here just to give you ideas on about what you can do to make yourself better in your business. All right. With that, we'll do a quick break and then we'll get into our main topic, which I'm excited to hear about. We're going to talk about TechCon Unplugged, September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get all meals and snacks at the event. Be well taken care of. Friday night, all day Saturday with Saturday night dinner at Dave and Buster's. Sunday, and you can hop on a plane in the afternoon, or there will be some of us that'll probably be hanging out on Sunday afternoon and come hang out there too. So we're also going to have good, wholesome IT content with community invested vendors. That's the vendors out there that they care about your bottom line because you care about their bottom line. And it's this symbiotic relationship that works together. And that's always been my goal is to pull vendors and business owners together so that they can raise their businesses together at the same time. A rising tide raises all ships. It's a true statement whenever it was made up, a bazillion years ago. It's as true as it is today. Go to techconunplugged.com. Get your tickets today. It's $199. That's an inexpensive price to learn something in your business and, get fed at the same time. And you can get a hotel room right there. We're going to be a nice inclusive spot where everybody can stay together. The hotel room is $102 a night. Can't beat that price. It's great. Free parking. We'll get you from the airport to the hotel with shuttle service and all that kind of stuff. So however you got to get there, get your tickets now. TechNutUnplugged.com. All right. We are going to talk about clean browsing and basically clean browsing content filtering. So, Daniel, first, let's start off and tell us a little bit about how you got started in technology and how you ended up doing something like clean browsing today.
Absolutely. So just to add, Clean Browsing is AI-based, big data in the cloud, virtualized, protect all your IoT devices.
Daniel fits right in here,
Fits
didn't
right
he?
in. Yep, that's
We
awesome.
can control all the devices. But yeah, I've been working on security for many, many years. Before Clean Browsing, I've been working at security with a website, a security company. I worked at OSEC, with an open source intrusion detection system. So I've been on the security space for many years. And I was looking for ways to detect malware, detect intrusions, detect hacks. And 3 years ago, yeah, uh, we're at that age on my kids that they were ready to get an iPhone and a laptop. He wanted it all, like iPhone, a laptop, an iPad. But we chose one. We'll give you a laptop. I want you to learn how to code and get everything done, right? And of course, the first thing I deployed was, well, let's put some security so he doesn't see some of the bad content online. And I chose one of the most popular DNS filters at the time, right? And of course, I enabled the settings, enabled the filtering. And I said, oh, we're good to go. And I told my wife, no, it's ready for him. We'll give it to him on his birthday. And the first thing she did was like, oh, let me try it out to see how well the blocking is working, right? And she typed the word sex. And when you type that on your browser, automatically go to the Google search, and all the results are there. And she clicked on the image, and boom, all the stuff show up. She's like, I don't think you're doing a good job with that. I'm like, that's true. And I just got thinking about that, right? Like, well, and I tried other filters, they're not filtering properly. I didn't find that they were really they cared enough to the content as I did. So as a builder myself, I love to build, I love to write code. I decided to just do that. And instead of actually looking for malware, looking for spam, looking for defacements, I started scanning pretty much every website in the internet and seeing, does this site has any porn content or adult content or curse words or violent content? And I spent months just building this engine to scan every website in the world and classify them. Does it has porn? Does it has violent content? Does it has curse words, nudity? And that kind of became the beginning of CleanBrowsing, just this engine scanning and checking for websites. And then later on, I tied that to the DNS server. So every domain that was not properly classified would be blocked. And the idea was just to make something for me to use, my friends to use, my family to use. And the goal was to just making something nice for the people that need it and just start to grow from there. Slowly, more and more people using, more and more people recommending. And that's kind of how it started. It was just a problem that I had. I thought that would be an interesting challenge to solve. And I just used all the experience I had trying to detect malware and phishing and spam, and just switch the indicators for something that would be useful for content filtering. And the idea was never to build a business out of that. It was just to build an interesting tool and an interesting solution. But then a lot of us schools start asking us, hey, I need more filters, I need more control, I need visibility. And then business are asking. So about a year ago, we added the page plans and the page options, and a business came out of that. That's the story.
That's awesome. That's a great story. You know, and that's usually how some of the great tools are created is you have a personal need, you find that need, you fix it, and then other people go, "Hey, I want what you got because you're doing it the way that I want to do it, but I'm not a coder, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm willing to pay you to use what you've already built one time." And obviously you're iterating on that over time. John, let me ask you a question because you were the one that found Daniel and clean browsing. And what were you looking for out there when you decided to go looking for basically a content filter on the internet?
Well, I think this fits into Daniel's tip, actually. I don't know if Daniel and I didn't change any cash beforehand. Full disclosure that I am a customer, but Daniel's tip was perfect, because if we even go back to the Zoros podcast we had, as an MSP, or I don't even want to say MSSP or whatever it is, but really, as our job is to be able to see what's going on our customers' networks, control what's happening, and then protect our customers. So I think a DNS filter, it fits into that paradigm of layered security that we've talked about on other shows, where we have the moat outside the castle wall, and then we have an inner keep that has a wall around it as well. So DNS filtering is an excellent layer in that service, or in that protection model. And again, I'll go back to Daniel. He's just feeding me the goods. His example of sex is a great Google term to search on. And the reason I say that, and one of the reasons that I chose CleanBrowsing and all the testing that I did, is I would Google the word sex using a couple of the filters, and obviously a lot of the sex stuff would be blocked. But I could still get to the WebMD page, depending on the settings that I had, because I deal with a lot of medical clients and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted the bad stuff, but I also didn't want to get a ticket generated because they couldn't get to sex on WebMD. So I was able to configure in the WebMD control panel based on my settings. And obviously, you can always whitelist a site in most DNS filters in CleanBrowsing as well. Like, you could whitelist webmd.com or any site so the filters don't play a role. But just naturally that came up. So full disclosure, full honesty, CleanBrowsing was not my first choice. I kind of passed them over. I don't know why. I really don't have a good answer for that. Maybe because I'd never heard of them before or something like that. And I looked at a couple other DNS providers, had some pretty bad experiences trying to get onboarded as an MSP and all that kind of stuff. Actually, my VoIP provider that also does some managed networking, Blackboard Solutions, started using CleanBrowsing. And I talked to a guy over there, and he said, "Hey, Daniel just takes care of us." So I was like, all right, I'm in. I'll check out CleanBrowsing. And you can't beat the pricing and all that. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you use it? It's probably a service based on the pricing that they charge that you could just include at no charge with your offering to your clients. It's that easy to use and that low cost. And I found it very effective, even from the role and aspect of the support role. When you put a support ticket in, if needed, I mean, it's not that hard. But guys, what we're really talking about here is OpenDNS, Google DNS, Quad9 DNS. We're just talking about putting some DNS numbers into your DHCP server to hand out CleanBrowsing DNS. A little more work on Android and iOS to get in what you need there, but that's totally outlined on the CleanBrowsing page and other providers' pages on what you need to do there. But and yes, DNS filtering is not perfect. If somebody changes the DNS or manually changes the DNS on their computer, they can waltz right around it. But you can also lock that down with your group policy and some other aspects as well. So.
And on most files, you can also block every DNS traffic that doesn't go to our IP addresses, for example, and pretty restrict the type of access that are allowed or not on the network. That's what we recommend to most people. Like, if you have a file or a router that allows ACLs, just block it there.
Yeah, so what Daniel's talking about that is, if the only DNS provider would be CleanBrowsing, somebody can't type in something else and make DNS requests over that. It can only be CleanBrowsing's DNS in simplistic terms. That's what he's explaining. So changing it manually on the device itself would not make that change.
Because you can basically block the other DNS services, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's
what an access control list does. Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much you block port 53, UDP, TCP, and only allow for IP addresses, for example. Or
I like it. Well, and that's one of the things that sometimes in this business, we're so busy doing what it is we do on a daily basis that we want something that's going to work and is easy to use, because nobody wants to sit there and read a manual and try to figure out, okay, I'm going to have to spend 100 hours to figure out how to do this and implement this for my customers to make my life easier. Yes, it's probably worth the investment, but at the same time, I think sometimes things are a little bit overly complicated for what's needed. So, Daniel, when it comes to your product, what types of things did you start? Obviously, you started off building it for yourself. What types of things did you see along the way that you kind of had to make changes to and make your product better as you move forward? Or what were some of the things that you maybe ran into?
Yeah, just to add to your previous comment is that I always think that security needs to be easy, transparent, and just work. If you have to read a long manual to make it configure and make it work, they're not going to deploy properly. They're going to make mistakes. So the defaults need to be really good, pretty strong, right? But on a clean browsing, what we learned is that changing the DNS is actually very difficult to a lot of people. Initially, I said, hey, just change the DNS. That should be an easy enough instruction for everybody. But I was surprised that a good chunk of our users were parents that were not really technical. And that was a really difficult step for them. And that kind of changed my mindset a lot, because initially just thought everybody can change their DNS. Everybody can go to the router and change the DNS. It was not that easy. So we started building a little apps to simplify the life. So if you go to Mac, we have a Mac app. If you go to Android, you have an Android app. And we're trying to make those so you just install that and you click on a button instead of going to your settings and following the steps to change. So that was a big eye-opener to us. We didn't expect that to be so complicated to a lot of people. And but it's really nice to see the audience that I was not that expecting to grow that much. It's a lot of moms, a lot of dads. Hey, I have a 5-year-old using my iPad and he suddenly was clicking on porn. That's completely unacceptable. He's too young for that. If we're talking about teenagers, then it can go to this, parents can decide what to do, but we're talking about 5-year-olds, 8-year-olds. And porn is everywhere in the internet. So, and it's a need that most parents have. So that's the area that it grew a lot of parents, a lot of moms using, and we just had to simplify even more. So we just one click as much as we can. So that was the main thing we learned, is that, well, what us technical people think are simple are not simple to everybody else.
That's true. And I'll tell you what, as far as I always like to tell my customers, to me, this is not a morality issue or anything like that. Obviously, we don't want the 5-year-old to, go to a porn site or anything like that. But I always tell my customers, listen, if you want to surf porn, that's fine. You're going to pay me about $150 a month to clean your machine up every month. No problem. If you want to get infected, go to a porn site, because I guarantee you one thing, you'll get infected. Um, so even from that standpoint, it's as far as security and blocking that type of stuff so people can actually use their computers for what they're intended for, not just watching movies and cat videos and all that kind of stuff, but actually to get stuff done, email, maybe maybe even peruse Facebook, see what your grandkids are up to, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's kind of hard to do that if your machine is infected because you went to nefarious sites that they've taken over that machine and they're doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about clean browsing is I guess customization would be the correct word to use, meaning I would suggest that this is something that you would purchase for your customers and maybe not even pass through, just to leave the malicious category checked. Meaning malicious is something like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, along the way here, blocking known ransomware sites, phishing sites, all that kind of stuff at a much higher level. I mean, I took a nice little manual sample of things from Fish Tank and other that known sites and fresh sites. And while clean browsing didn't catch everything, compared to like just rocking Google DNS, which allowed everything through, we had maybe 50% or better on sites that were found that day, that minute. I mean, literally within the time that it took me to go to Fish Tank, dump that stuff into a text file, run it through Google DNS. We're talking about 10, 15 sites, and then change my DNS to clean browsing, and then go to the exact same sites. 50% of those sites that were caught within that, let's just say 60-minute period, were already blocked by clean browsing. So, my thought on that is, well, okay, so you just saved how many truck rolls on that, or a possible ransomware infection, or, who knows, maybe nothing, but it kind of makes it feel good. And if you look at the pricing table, guys, we're talking maybe the maximum you're going to spend is $50 a month. I mean, that's 5,000 endpoints. So it's just a really easy feel-good layer to add to. And then you can step it up if you want to use it for control. Like I've really been using it in, let's say, we've got some deployments in factories where we have endpoints out in the factories. So I've been using CleanBrowsing. I create a new category, and then I block everything that CleanBrowsing has to offer, meaning like online radio, dating sites, gambling, proxies, gaming, ads and traffic, torrent, everything. And then I just simply whitelist the 1 or 2 sites that the companies are supposed to get to. And then, so what I like about this versus just totally blocking the internet and then allowing 1 or 2 sites is it still makes the internet useful to this person, but it makes it very boring for this person. So they can still go to appropriate business sites if they need to do business, but they're not going to go to, I don't know, what are the ones I see in the factory? Consumption Junction, weird sites to watch the motorcycle crash video or something almost pornography, but maybe not quite, because that's all going to be blocked. But they can still go to a business site of their choice and get business done in a safe environment.
Yeah, and to add here is that the first thing you do before you access any website is your computer do a DNS request. So if you want to block at multiple layers, of course, you have your antivirus, you have your firewall, but the first thing you're going to do is a DNS request. So if you can identify malicious domains right out of the box, right at the first request and block them, that will save a lot of trouble down the line, right? Into the other layers. So, and we spend a lot of time. That's one area that I'm passionate a lot, right? So we try to we leverage multiple blacklists, so Fish Tank, OpenFish, multiple others, and we do our own research as well, and we try to always be ahead and blocking those domains really fast. So generally, within hours of the phishing domain going live, we are blocking already on a CleanBrowsing, and that cuts down a lot of the noise, a lot of the issues right away.
I like that because a lot of times, yeah, we don't have time to go out there and look at all the stuff that we need to block for our customers. But if we have a service that's in place that can help us do that, and so obviously, it sounds like you guys are definitely keeping up with that to make sure that uh, as new stuff is popping up, it's taken care of. Now, is that a hard task, or is that something that you're able to automate, or how does that work?
Oh, it's all via AIs in the IoT big data cloud. But yeah, it's a lot automated. We leverage multiple external blacklists, and we do a lot of automated checks, our own crawlers as we crawl websites because we're always crawling for new domains, new changes. So as they do that, we also try to identify: is this website compromised? Is this specific link? Script being loaded from different websites that might indicate a compromise, and we leverage multiple other tools to check if these links are malicious or not, and we add to our a database automatically. So this is the piece that is automated, but we also do a lot of manual checks and manual spot checks. We find some domains that are being misused, we block them manually. So it's a mix of both. We also have lots of users that they report to us, and they send their own feeds to us. So we blend this all together and try to provide the maximum security we can. Always trying to get better.
That's good. And you can tell the person, and especially you, Daniel, that you have the passion for doing that, and that's something that's very, very important to you. Because obviously, you had a need for your own children and family, but as you're still passionate about helping others to be able to do the same type of thing that you've had. So that's cool. I like that.
Well, even within the CleanBrowsing dashboard, when you go in there, they do have some nice things set up as far as some custom filters. So like, in Google or YouTube, you can set your filtering level. Well, you can have that be a default, where like in YouTube, you can have some moderate or strict filtering, or you can have YouTube totally blocked. Some of the popular games that are out there like Fortnite or maybe Roblox, you can have that totally blocked just by a checkbox. You can block things like Facebook or Instagram and all that simply by basically checking a box. The other things that you can do here is maybe you have a small client where you don't have the need for a UTM or something like that. So you just have a standard stateful packet inspection firewall, or a decent small business class firewall in there. You can also block TLDs, and what I mean by TLDs is like by country. So you could block TLDs by for Russia or .loan or .party, or some of these sites that maybe might be in the top 10 list for the most abused TLDs out there. You can automatically block those using a DNS filter as well.
Yeah.
Very nice. And
It's
John,
right
just so you know,
no, sorry.
I was going to say, real quick, John, just so you know, it's Roblox, just not Roblox, but
I've never played, so
and my son would hurt me if I shut that off. So I'm just saying.
I'm an adult, so I don't have time for those kind of foolish games.
Okay.
Oh, hate mail, here it comes.
I'm sorry, Daniel, what were you going to say?
Yeah. And some of those TLDs, when you look, like 99% of all the domains on that are malicious. And you see a lot of those. So, well, why are you allowing, for example, if you look at Spanhouse Research, I'm going to share the link. They say that .loan, 81% of all domains they see are malicious. .work, 62%. .date, 71%. Some of those, you'll be like, well, there's very few legit sites in there. It might be easier to block for now, depending on your network. So we allow you to do that as well. I'll paste on the IRC the link to that.
I like that because a lot of time if that particular one is not being used and you can block everything, and then if you have to open up something and whitelist that one site for somebody special that might need an actual legit site, that'll come up when it comes up. And that's John, that's not as bad when you have something that comes up like that versus blocking, having a bunch of legitimate sites and different things that you need to get to or your customers need to get to. And now you've got everybody going, hey, why can't I go here? Why can't I go there?
Well, usually what I try to do with my customers is try to get a feel, or even send them a little survey of, hey, send me the top 10 sites that you guys use for business. And then I'll automatically, even though I know CleanBrowsing or whatever tool I'm using isn't going to block those, maybe it's Microsoft.com or, just an example, I still toss those in the whitelist just to make sure, why not? Maybe something would happen. That can always come back and bite you, because who knows, maybe Microsoft.com could get infected at some point or something like that. But the reason I kind of like CleanBrowsing versus maybe using, let's go back to like WebRoot. WebRoot has a DNS product. WebRoot is a great product. A lot of guys use it and gals use it and all that kind of stuff. The reason I don't, my argument against using WebRoot DNS and WebRoot AV at the exact same time is you have the exact same signatures from the exact same company. Maybe I'm totally thinking outside of the box, but I kind of like having maybe a couple different opinions on what is going on. So maybe you have a DNS filter from one company, you have your AV product, which may or may not have content filtering in it. So you turn that on. Then you might throw a browser plug in there, like Microsoft Defender on Chrome. So you've got a couple different filtering levels or a couple of different layers all weighing in on perhaps the exact same thing. But maybe your chances go up there since you're not using the same metrics, or evaluation techniques that, across the band that you might catch something, or one might catch something that the other does not. So that's my opinion on that.
So John, what you're saying is not to have all your eggs in one basket.
It does complicate it. I mean, obviously, the beautiful thing about using a product like WebRoot, and I'm picking on them just because they're popular and good, is that you've got one control panel to control everything. So if you whitelist something in WebRoot, it's going to pass through the entire product from their control panel. If you use CleanBrowsing with WebRoot, with something else, and then you also have a firewall on site that might be doing this as well, you've got a couple different places you might need to whitelist this, as well as trying to figure out what is blocking it. Great thing about CleanBrowsing is Daniel will happily create you a custom block page, which will let your users know that, hey, it's CleanBrowsing stepping in and blocking it. And you can customize that with an email link like I've done, so that they have a little link right there that they can click on to report this site is blocked. So I can check it out. If I think it's a false positive, I send it over to Daniel or the support team over there. or I just go whitelisted if I know it's something good. The interesting thing is, since I've been using CleanBrowsing, it's been going on a while. Like, I found a couple sites that should not be having problems, but like have misconfigured certificates or expired certificates. And we're talking about sites that like are in the dental industry that are with its expired SSL certs and all that kind of stuff, and they've been expired for a long time. It's just that kind of stuff. Like, it's ridiculous, that it should be that way. But CleanBrowsing pokes it up, blocks it. Check it out, see what's going on, whitelist it, or figure it out.
Very good.
Security is hard. So you see some big companies, they misconfigure their DNSSEC. So since we do a strict DNSSEC validation, it gets blocked. So we have to manually whitelist in these cases. But people make mistakes, and we try to identify those. And it's funny, if you look at the Symantec top 20 shady TLDs, for example, .country says that 99.94% of all domains on .country are shady. .string, 99.79%. .download, 99.58%. Those are some big numbers. Those TLDs should probably just block altogether.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, that really is a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking at that link you put in the chat, Daniel,
Yeah.
and of the 27,000 domains of the .loan, 22,764 of them are known malicious.
Crazy, right?
Now,
that is 82% of the domains.
Now, what does TLD stand for? Top level domain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As soon as I asked a question, it just came in my head. Like that happens.
Faster than it ran into mine, so you're on.
Wow. Anyways.
So in the chat, just to bring it up here, Fence Post is posting some really good stuff in here. Fence Post, that's an interesting chat name. But anyways, I see if he sees a lot of sites being blocked by multiple products, I really don't think I'm going to whitelist it. That's what your job is an MSP, to go figure out why it's being white or blocked by all these products. It could be just a misconfiguration on their part. Just like Daniel said, DNSSEC, they have something misconfigured. The struggle there is to explain to the client why. Because all they do is see the inconvenience of, the site's blocked. Why can't I do what I want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And then you say, well, they have a misconfiguration. And they're like, so I just want to go there. So, I get that. Oh, and Fence Post says he's just a little off. That's why he has Fence Post.
The idea is that unless the issue is really severe, that if you visit the website, you may get compromised, it might make sense to whitelist, for example. But some sites, they have malware. So if you visit them, then they're actually going to try to compromise your browser as you're visiting the site. So on those, well, you better wait until it gets fixed before you can access.
The good idea here, in my opinion, is to have a conversation, maybe before you turn this up and all that. The conversation I have with my clients is, let's say I'm talking to a doctor that owns an orthodontic practice. I'll say to him, it's like a volume knob. We started at 0. And, way back when, we didn't do anything. Maybe we had some AV and, we were rocking your Linksys router. I've been doing this long enough to probably say that with confidence, that life was good back then. So our volume was at 0. So, especially I would say things have changed over the last 2 years. I mean, really, if you look back and you really think about it, it's about 2 years, ransomware, all this kind of stuff started coming, really becoming prominent and affecting everyone, not just big organizations or specialized organizations, but everybody. So now we take that volume knob, and my explanation to them is, I'm slowly turning that up. We're gonna, if we can, we're gonna turn up to 10, just like Autograph says. We're gonna turn up the radio all the way, as high as we can get it. But we're gonna do it one notch at a time. And just so you know, your users are gonna start complaining, for lack of a better word, that because we're going to run into some things. And as we do that, I'm going to whitelist what's good so that we'll never see that error again. But then we're going to turn it up again, and we're going to see what happens. And then the biggest problem I see is that third-party vendors, like our customers will call a third-party vendor, and their product won't work because the firewall's involved. Whether that's your UTM, whether that's CleanBrowsing, whether that's something like that, they just immediately go to this spray and shotgun approach of changing everything purely to get their product to work, meaning like disable the AV. How many times have you heard a third-party vendor say that? Disable the firewall. Really? Really? You know this is a medical practice, right? Why would you even suggest that? Why isn't the suggestion, well, we need to whitelist in the firewall, or provide a FAQ or some sort of technical sheet that says this is what your technician needs to do in your firewall. These are all the things that need to be whitelisted. So you have to be careful that your customer isn't interacting with a third-party vendor and turning everything off that you just implemented. If you can, you have to control that. So there's a balance there. So the first thing you need to do is have that conversation with your client to understand that we're turning the knob, but make sure that your employees are probably going to call your vendors who are going to want to turn all that back off.
So, John, what you're saying is when it comes to third-party vendors, maybe sometimes a laptop to the knee would be a good way to stop that from happening?
I would probably more say like maybe a sledgehammer.
Oh,
to the knee
okay.
would probably be better. I mean, you're far too kind.
Well, I was thinking about it, a heavy Dell laptop.
You're talking like one of the really old, 4.5 inch thick one. Okay, yeah. Let's just drop an R310 on a person.
That they have a lot of security products installed, just disabled because exactly that. They try, people complained, or they move to the lowest level, the lowest setting. Nobody looks anymore and just sits around there, stays there. Especially on IDS products, which are like intrusion detection system. You can enable them so they can block attacks. But because of the false positives, they just leave in the IDS mode alone, just alerting, nobody looking, just sitting around, wasting money, wasting dust, and just staying there forever. Because they don't go through the process of trying, slowly growing, educating the users that false positives may happen, and we just have to be aware and fix and work on those. And it's the unfortunate state of InfoSec on a lot of places.
All right.
That's the power. I got to jump in there. That's the power and the quality of a really good product, is one that limits false positives, or one that may be aggressive and have a bunch of false positives, but makes it very easy for you to identify and understand those false positives. So when you're choosing a UTM product, when you're choosing any security product, that whole see, control, protect, that visibility into what is happening, that allows you to maybe respond from your mobile phone or whitelist from your mobile phone. That's important, because false positives, just like Daniel said, that's a huge issue that will really frustrate your clients.
Right. And you.
Absolutely.
Right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and finish up on this conversation. Our show today is brought to you by FreshBooks. You remember when you started your small business? It was no small feat. It took a lot of late nights, early mornings, and an occasional all-nighter. Bottom line, you've been insanely busy ever since. So why not make things a little easier? Well, our friends at FreshBooks have the solution. FreshBooks invoicing and accounting software is designed specifically for small business owners. It's simple, intuitive, and keeps you way more organized than a dusty shoebox filled with crumpled receipts. Create and send professional-looking invoices in 30 seconds, and then get them paid 2 times faster with automated online payments. Who doesn't want to get paid faster? File expenses even quicker and keep them perfectly organized for tax time. Tax time is right around the corner. I just had to send a couple of checks in. And the best part, FreshBooks grows alongside your business, so you'll always have the tools you need when you need them, without ever having to learn the ins and outs of accounting. Join the 24 million people who've used FreshBooks. Try it free for 30 days, no catch, and no credit card required. Go to freshbooks.com/podnuts and enter podnuts in the How Did You Hear About It section to get you started. All right, let's go back into, and we're talking about content filtering via DNS and all the things that we can do there. So, Daniel, what are some of the things that we haven't touched on yet when it comes to your product, and some of the ways that it can be used, obviously, to help our clients and to help us so that we can help our clients?
I think we cover pretty much everything. And it gives you the flexibility to decide what kind of content is allowed on the network. Like you said, if you want to block gaming, you can block gaming. If you want to block gambling, you can block gambling. It allows you to choose what's allowed or not. And we even have an option where you can block it all and only allow the domains that are whitelisted. So it kind of switches around and say, hey, everything's blocked unless you authorize these domains. So you can work on both ways. One very strict, especially for closed places. Others, you just choose the ones to block. So you can run them both ways, and it's pretty flexible.
I like that to have choice, because there are situations like that where you're going to want to, and I think John was talking about that earlier, where you just go in and you block everything, whitelist a handful of things that people can get to, or vice versa. You can do it the other way too. So I definitely like that. So Daniel, let's go ahead and talk about, obviously everybody always loves to talk about the infamous price. So why don't you give us a basically what's offered in what you're doing and some of the prices that you have. Obviously they can go to the website and look at all that too, but figure we might as well bring it out now.
So the good news is that at CleanBrowsing, we have 3 free filters. One is the security filter, the other is the adult filter, and the other is the family filter. The security filter only blocks malicious domains, and anybody can use anywhere. The other is the adult filter, where it blocks malicious domains and porn domains. And the family filter is our most restrictive one, where it also blocks mixed content sites and proxies and VPNs. So it gives an additional level of security, which works for most families, most people. But if you need additional control, like you want to see all your logs, who is going where, or if you want to block additional categories and whitelisting, then you go to our paid plans. And our paid plans, we try to be the most affordable as possible. So the basic plan, which most for families, it's $5 per month. And then the other ones, they start at the pro levels. It's the Pro 500. It's only $10 per month. So it covers up to 500 devices. And then the price just doubles for there. So if you have 1,000 devices, it's $20 per month. And just grows from there. So it's really, really affordable. And it's pretty easy for almost everybody to use, which was kind of the goal. We just want to make something that everybody can use and control what goes onto their computers, their network, and their business.
Man, John wasn't kidding when he said it's very, very affordable for anybody to even offer it for your managed service plan for your clients, because that's a no-brainer add-in right there. It's like, for the price, you can't beat it.
Well, even if you have home clients, it's a no-brainer that you should be rocking the security filter instead of Google DNS or something like that. Explain to me why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, and that's why we bring wonderful people like Daniel on the show, so other people can know about it and help their clients.
It's kind of like G.I. Joe.
That's right.
It's funny that we start to see some ISPs just defaulting to our own IP addresses, our own DNS servers. Especially, I'm seeing a lot of Middle East countries where they're more restrictive against porn, especially just enabling our adult filter to all the users. So suddenly we start seeing millions of DNS requests. I'm like, what just happened? And I see, is this specific ISP probably enabled, because suddenly there's like thousands of IPs just reach out to us really fast. So we're seeing that a lot lately, just ISPs just enabling one of our free filters by default. So that's something people can use, anybody can use.
And I want to add on there, just from the geek aspect of things too, and I don't know if you guys did this while I had to step away. CleanBrowsing, unlike a lot of other DNS providers, also does DNS crypt, DNS over HTTPS, DNS over TLS, and will also provide DNS for which is actually kind of specialized on your Android phone or Android phone. So they have options for all of that, and it's very easily outlined in their help pages on what you need to do if you want to rock that on your phone, or if you need any of those other types of services.
Yeah. Unfortunately, DNS, it's very easy to hijack. So you see a lot of ISPs hijacking traffic. So what we did is that we try to offer all privacy protocols available for DNS, which DNS over TLS, HTTPS, DNS crypt. So we support all of them. So if you have, for example, if you have a new version of Android, you can enable the private DNS option that goes straight to our servers, and it's all encrypted. So that's the other thing we support as well.
Very nice.
The other cool thing is they also have, if you have users or something like that, they have good instructions on how to use their service with a dynamic IP address and how to get around that.
Yeah.
John, so explain for those that might not know, what's the difference between a dynamic and a static IP?
Thanks, Jeff. So static, one that does not change. Dynamic, usually what a home user will have, and maybe some businesses. You might have the same IP address, meaning on your WAN side or your internet side of your connection, it may stay the same, but at any moment, literally, your provider, Comcast, whoever that might be, Verizon, can change that IP, that external IP address, to something else. So it may dynamically change as time goes on.
Yeah.
The other weird thing that a lot of providers are doing now, especially small providers, which makes things very interesting, that I have found out, that I ran into a situation, is they're assigning the exact same WAN IP to 2 different locations. So what they'll do is location 1 and location 2 will have the same WAN IP address, but back at the provider's equipment level, they'll keep track of who's who. And what that does is, since we've run out of IPv4 addresses, they'll hand the same address to 2 different locations, which in my mind shouldn't be possible in real pure networking, but their equipment will adjust or keep track of what's happening and what traffic needs to go where for those end users.
Yeah, and that's especially important for our page plans, because we need to know when a DNS request comes, we need to know where it's from and where it's going, so we can apply the proper filter. So we know, oh, this request is for John's account, so we know block XYZ ABC. So we do that based on the source IP address and destination IP address. And the way we try to avoid this issue of NAT on those ISPs is that we have multiple DNS IP addresses, and we try to amplify the users that are using that. So for example, if you get a DNS IP address, another person on your region will get a different one. Another person will get a different one, to prevent this crashing of the same source IP to the same destination IP address. So each one of our clients go into a pool, and only a few of those get assigned to one DNS IP address. That kind of minimize the issue. And we also offer dedicated IPv6. So if you have IPv6 support, you get a DNS unique for you. So you don't even need to worry about tracking the IP address or the source IP or anything like that.
Oh, that's great. And then how do you guys deal with what John was talking about as far as the if your dynamic IP address, external IP address is changing? Is that through your app that you're able to control that, so that it makes sure that those settings are connected to that particular account?
Yeah, there are multiple ways. One is that we have an API URL, which if you just click on it, automatically updates our dashboards with a new IP address. So you can do like a cron job or a scheduled task, just ping this URL every few minutes and keep the IP address updated. We also support any dynamic DNS that you may have, like DynDNS and others. So if you just provide a domain name, we always keep your account connected to that DNS IP address. So we always keep in sync. So those are the 2 ways most of our clients do.
Okay, awesome. And then the other thing that you kind of glossed over a little bit earlier was you talked about some sort of reporting as far as what the clients were doing or going. So can you explain the reporting on the DNS there?
Yeah, that's an area which you're trying to improve and make more clear, more easy to use. But the idea there is that on our dashboard, you can easily see all the DNS requests, all the ones that were blocked and why they were blocked. So you can see, hey, we saw 20 malicious domains blocked, and you can see why they're being blocked. And then might start you to start looking, hey, I might have a computer that's compromised, and just helps you get more visibility on what's going on your network. So if you're blocking porn and you see the domains being blocked in porn, it's like, oh, who is trying to access? Especially in my school, who is trying to access? What's going on? Allows you to go deeper and investigate what's going on inside your network. And most people don't have this visibility, right?
No, and that's great, because a lot of times that's what we're trying to find out is, somebody says, I went to this website, I don't remember what it was, I'm not sure really what's going on, or they're having other problems, and it's our job to go in there and try to figure out what their problem is. And a lot of times we can only do that if we have actually something to look at and go, okay, what's going on this network? Let's figure this out. Where were they going? What were they doing? what things were being blocked. So that's actually very helpful, for people in our industry for sure.
Well, I'm big into logging because I think that's the only way our computers talk back to us is via the logs. So I try to make sure that the audit logs, they're easily available, easily searchable, easily downloadable, and that helps you. For example, if you mix that with your firewall logs, your Windows logs, you can easily see what's going on the network.
That's great. All right, I'll tell you what. I've got one more. We're going to take another quick break, and what I want you guys to do is go ahead and gather up any final thoughts that you might have, anything we might not have covered, or anything that that needs to be said, and we'll go ahead and do that. If you'd like to support this show, I encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And what that does is it gives you a way to get into a secret Facebook group that we have on Facebook. And I think we're up to 121 people in that group now. It's growing by leaps and bounds. And it's a safe place where you can share ideas, where you can ask questions. It doesn't matter how new you are in a business. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. We can all learn from each other. And that was the whole reason for making this group. And I wanted to make it something that for the people that are supporting this show, we want to be able to give them access to the secret Facebook group so that they could have a safe way that they could share with others instead of, there's a lot of other groups and stuff out there, and there's some good, some bad, and some indifferent, but we wanted to make sure that we have a good, safe environment where you're not going to just, if somebody asks a question and you don't really have an answer, you're not just going to comment on it just because you have something to say. Unlike me, but this is my show. I can say whatever I want. Yeah. So, but really, even in the Facebook group, John, would you agree I'm pretty nice?
Yes, Jeff.
I appreciate that, John. All right. But anyways, it's $1 a show, $4 or $5 a month. That's about how many shows we do is one a week. And that'll get you in that secret Facebook group, kick the tires, try it out. Doesn't cost that much. An expensive cup of coffee. That's about it.
As others have pointed out, that I'm actually paying to be on the show. So
yes, John's a double dipper. Just
right.
So we're clear.
In the group and on the show, I'm paying to be there.
Yes, it's awesome. And I want to thank our newest Patreon supporters. We have Michael Klimchuk, Israel Stern, and Orion Kochavi. And hopefully I didn't butcher any of those names, and I probably did, and I apologize. But I want to thank you all for supporting this podcast and the things that we do here. I really, really appreciate it. And I also want to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your continued support. All right, Daniel. So any lasting thoughts about your product or anything in between about the business, anything that maybe had not been mentioned up to this point that you want to make sure that it gets out there?
I think we covered it all, and I really appreciate the chance to be accepted here to speak about clean browsing and sharing what we're doing. Starting a business is always a lot of work, and it's nice to have the chance to go here and talk about it. And thank you, John, for all the love. You'll be an awesome customer.
Right back at you, brother. Right back at you. I mean, the love goes both ways. I'm enjoying the service.
I'm glad I found you. Yeah, absolutely. So, Daniel, let people know where they can find you, and let them know where they can find your product at and all that good stuff.
Sure. You can find CleanBrowsing on cleanbrowsing.org. That's our main website. And from there, you can find more information about our free plans, our paid plans, about the company, what we're doing. And we try to keep the website always updated. We are also on Twitter, so it's twitter.com/cleanbrowsing. So we are always sharing news there. So those are the two main places.
Awesome. And I'll tell you what, if you want to know what's going on, obviously Daniel is one of those people that's constantly looking at the new things that are popping up. So I'm sure it's a lot of great information. John, any lasting thoughts? And, after you're done with that, you can let people know where they can find you.
Well, having submitted a nice list to Daniel on my wish list on things that he would change and add to clean browsing, that is also something Daniel is very receptive to, constructive criticism and wish lists and stuff like that. Again, I go back, here we are on a Sunday night. Now we got a company owner that is joining us on a Sunday evening, giving his time to the community and us. So that is awesome. But, he's also one of those guys that's, a family guy just like us, running his own business just like us, that wants to give back. So he's got open ears as well to his customers. See everybody in the Facebook group, and everybody hammer on Rainey for not wanting to work on weekends at my new donut shop down in the Cayman Islands. So
That's awesome.
thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you coming out. And again, thank you, Daniel, for showing up today and letting us know about your awesome product. And I would encourage everyone out there, go check it out. There's nothing to lose. There's enough free things in there that you can basically use it on your own network. And quite honestly, it really is cheap enough for, especially, let's face it, everybody is having some sort of problem on their home networks nowadays, whether they're working from home or whether their family is just perusing the internet. And this is a very inexpensive way that you can protect that network on the residential level for those that are supporting residential. So
I want to add on just a little bit of that. Even if you don't think you have a problem, all of us don't always type correctly. Some of the most malicious domains end in .cm. So if you leave the O out on things like Facebook or anything, Facebook.cm is a totally different page than Facebook.com and what it contains and and Hilton.cm, all that kind of stuff. So just changing your DNS definitely adds a nice little layer of protection.
Type of domains is a big thing. There's a lot of malicious domains that really look alike the real ones. Facebook or dot something. It's impressive, the creativity of the bad guys.
All right. I got to go back to my first story about this, and this is way back at the beginning. I did a big project for a school system. I was a small part of a really big project. And at the end of the project, basically, is bringing the internet and all that into the school system. And this is way back before there was filtering or even anybody was concerned about this. So all the groups, all these students, elementary kids, chose restaurants to do internet research on. And so parents and everybody were at the big presentation, and the kids went up and typed in their school and their restaurants. And somebody typed in the Big Boys restaurant incorrectly. And in front of God and everybody, Big Boys appeared up on the screen. If only we would have had CleanBrowsing back then. So I mean, it's just that easy. Just one key can change exactly. I mean, whitehouse.com, whitehouse.gov. Need I say more?
That's a great example. Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
Awesome. All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnuts.com/CRP Live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.